Hello all, and welcome today to a very special malt beverage review. As you can see, it's a day, though barely so. It's about 5:30 right now. It's my only day off, unfortunately, this week. I've been very busy with both extra hours at one of my jobs, extra hours at both of my jobs, actually, technically, since I switched days at the other one, and errands. So it's been pretty much I sleep, I get up and I go and do chores or work and what have you, and that's why I'm very proud and happy to go and review this malt beverage. Why is it a malt beverage? Well, because the amount of barley in it is under 51%. And why is that? Well, as you can see, this is from Lanikai Brewing Company. And this is their special edition, Kahiki. Not to be confused with a very cheesy Kahiki pineapple ale from the mainland. This is real deal stuff here from Hawaii by a local brewer. Now this, as it says here, honoring the past, present, and future of Polynesian voyaging. So this was brewed in honor of the Hokulea returning from its around the world voyage. It took a 2 or 3 years, if I remember correctly, because they did a lot of stops and did a lot of education. Hokulea, if you don't know, is Polynesian Voyaging canoe out of Hawaii. And you can kind of see it's on there. Now this is 5.3 ABV, and it's technically not a beer, like I said, because it is under 51% barley. I'm not sure if they used any barley in the malts, or if they used, well, why don't I read the label, and you can find out for yourself here. So, Tumeric. This is just general for their line here. From the mountains to the sea, LBC, Lanikai Brewing Company, seasonal tribute to Hawaii's rare and exotic fruit and flowers. Each limited edition batch is made to showcase our favorite local ingredients and flavors. Island sourced, island inspired. So, Kahiki. From 0 to 400 AD, seafaring voyagers to Hawaii carried canoe plants with them, critical for food, cultivation, and survival. As a tribute to the past and future of voyaging, this beer is brewed with 6 of them. Ko, sugarcane; ki, tea leaf; kalo, taro; niu, coconut; olena, sorry, I didn't see the kahako there; Tumeric; and ulu, breadfruit. So all of these are, Polynesian staple crops, and all put together to make this particular beverage here at 5.3 ABV. It's a little bit warm now, so only 1,000 bottles of this were made, and you can see here my bottle is number 31. Where did I get this? Tamura's in Kailua. So obviously, they do quite a bit of distribution in Kailua because they are a Kailua brewer, and Kailua is a fairly small town. So, it's already getting a little bit too warm here. So why don't we just go and pour this out. We're going to be using the Belgian-style goblet here. Well, not really goblet, it's more like a tulip glass. I'm going to give it a fairly vigorous pour because I don't know how to... Oh, it's making quite a bit of head, actually. Well, that's good. Fairly dark. I would assume that's mostly from the tea and the turmeric, because turmeric is used as a sort of dye, and tea, in order to prepare it for, edible use, it has to be cooked, and it comes out being a very black, sugary, almost like a black rock candy-like substance from the root. So this is a golden brown, nicely carbonated, with a off-white to beige head, fairly thick. Interesting. Very herbal, but not in the sense of herbal hops. It's more like a spice rub kind of herbal. Underneath that is a sort of cooked brown sugar kind of smell. It's far more reminiscent of whiskey. malt base is sweet, but not very determined. You just kind of smell it as sweetness. I'm guessing the herbalness mostly comes from the sort of turmeric, as well as the fact that, you know, a lot of these things, I like how nicely carbonated it is. So again, sugarcane really shows up in that nose there. As well as the tea root. Tea root's kind of got a herbal, kind of burnt smell to it. Again, not very reminiscent of beer, more like a rum or whiskey. Not as thick as a barley sort of drink or even a corn sort of drink on the palate. It's fairly watery. A very interesting sort of flavor here. Not very beer-like at all. Carbonation is fairly soft bite. Mids is almost an earthiness. Finish, there's a sort of herbal bitterness. It's not like hops at all. It's got more of an astringent aspect to it. One thing that is striking is how sweet it smells in the palate, you know, in the nose, but it's actually medium dry on the mouth. Again, the biggest, not too much taste in the front, biggest thing, big explosion of earthiness in the mids. Followed by an almost woody, herbal, slightly astringent bitterness in the finish. But not like hop bitterness. It doesn't feel oily, it doesn't coat the tongue really. In the front, the carbonation bite is very different from a kind of beer. It feels, you know, it bites in, but it has a different texture to it. It feels more fine-grained, the sort of carbonation. Kind of grassy, effervescent notes as it warms up in the front. I think what's really sort of defining this is the Elena, the Tumeric, which is kind of a strong flavor compared to the fairly mild to sweet, you know, mild, well, technically mild to sweet flavors of most of the other things here. You know, but that sugar gets used up by the yeast to kind of create the alcohol, so you're kind of left with very herbal, very earthy kind of flavors. I, for one, would never be able to pick out breadfruit or, you know, kalo in, you know, this if it was given to me blind and nobody told me what was in it. As it warms up a great deal, and it's very hot today, so things are warming up pretty quickly. More of the, very much, a bit of that residual sweetness kind of comes out, just ever so much. Now, interestingly, Hawaiians really didn't go and make alcohol out of anything other than, you know, a very, very low ABV being made out of sort of old sweet potatoes that were soaked in water. And it was very low ABV. It's about 2 to 3% ABV, so you couldn't catch much of a buzz off of it. And what the Hawaiians mostly drank was kava, which is, of course, grounded Piper methysticum root, which I haven't reviewed. I do drink it, but I haven't reviewed because, one, nobody outside of Polynesia really drinks this stuff, and two, it is such an acquired taste. You know, doing taste reviews would be like, yes, this one tastes a little bit more like sand and mud puddle, with hints of Novocaine. It is very much a kava is very much a sort of acquired taste. Definitely has a little bit of creaminess, a slight kind of creamy round quality to the mid palate, you know, as it warms up a bit. Helped by that sort of different carbonation feel, which definitely feels like a cross in between, you know, not as hard as actual carbon dioxide, not as soft as nitrogen. You know, something about the way it fermented obviously created a very different sort of carbonation feel to it. Well, what can I say about this particular beverage? Well, while it was made to honor the various plants that, you know, Hawaiian Polynesian voyagers carried on their canoes, we begin to see why they didn't go and make a sort of table beverage out of this. Well, besides the fact that it's very hard to ferment things in tropical heat. Basically, you know, in the tropics, you won't find very many fermentable beverages. They're just drank straight. Palm wine in various parts of the world, pulque in Mesoamerica, and that has a lot to do with the fact that you know, the tropics, lots of wild yeasts. If you ferment something, you basically have to drink it right away, or it becomes vinegar essentially, and the very funky flavors. So, you know, most of these things, sugarcane obviously, and tea leaf, you know, were later used to go and create distilled beverages, including the rough okolehau. But Hawaiians generally didn't go and make, you know, just fermented beverages for various reasons. And now, obviously, with high technology, we can go and use chillers and, you know, clean sort of brewing systems to create something and, you know, have interesting results. Now, this is interesting. It is very interesting. It is not unpleasant, but at the same time, this is not something that anyone would ever bottle up and just sell for the sake of selling. It's not very beer-like. It's very dry, very earthy, very kind of strong flavors. I can't see this really appealing to your casual drinker. Someone like me, yeah, you know, it's an interesting thing for the palate. So the money from this goes to Hokulea. So if you see it, obviously you're probably not going to find this on the mainland, but if you see this in Hawaii, please buy a bottle to help support the cause of the Polynesian Voyaging Society, which is a very good cause in my opinion. You know, to promote the traditional sailing techniques and practices of the ancient Polynesians. And, you know, if you're like me, try this very interesting, complex, kind of difficult, I'm going to say it's a little bit difficult, it's not bad, just difficult, interesting, out there sort of beverage. And, you know, sort of dwell on, you know, how interesting brewing has become in Hawaii in the past 3 years. So, Lanikai Brewing, Kahiki. Go out and try it. Get yourself a bottle from this limited edition before it disappears, and help support the Polynesian Voyaging Society. Cheers.